Hi, this is Mrs. Anderson. This is your first vocab list from second semester. These words are taken from The True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Sherman, Alexie. As you watch this vocab video, please take notes on the part of speech and the definition. And as always, you can watch this video on my YouTube channel. Hit pause, rewind, rewatch as many times as necessary. The first word is susceptible, and it's an adjective, and if you're susceptible to something, you're likely to be influenced or more likely harmed by a particular thing. So for example, during flu season, they always ask the elderly and children who are susceptible to dying from the flu virus to get flu shots or the flu vaccine, because the elderly and small children don't have great immune systems yet, so they want to give them this extra boost from the virus in order to help them. So the picture I have for susceptible is a picture of a mama and a dada elephant, and you can notice the little baby in between them, and one of the reasons they're protecting that baby is because it is susceptible to attack from predators. In fact, after animals give birth, one of the first things that the mama elephant does is cover the baby elephant with dirt in order to prevent the smell of the animal to alerting predators to the fact that a baby has been born, because they realize it's easy pickings, that a baby can barely walk at that point and it could turn into a meal. So the parents of this animal are surrounding it and using their girth and size in order to protect it because of its susceptibility as a baby elephant. Word number 2 is a noun, and it is compound. Now, you may have heard of compound within an English context if we talk about a compound noun, or words like briefcase, where you have two nouns to create a word. And that could be helpful in this case because when you have a compound, you have a fenced or walled-in area containing a group of residents. So it's not just one house, but multiple houses, just like a compound word isn't just one noun, but two nouns. So the picture I have here is one of the Carter compound. Now you may not know who Carter is, but it's in reference to President Jimmy Carter, who was originally from Georgia, and after his term as president, he returned to Georgia. And here you see his compound. There is a security gate, there is a fence surrounding it, and then he has a number of properties. But obviously, it's in a guarded location surrounded by a fence, because as a former president, he needs to have some kind of protection. So he does live in this walled compound in order to make sure that he is safe. Word number 3 is liberal. It's an adjective, and a lot of times you'll hear these words in a political sense, that someone considers themselves to be a liberal Democrat. But for this book, think of it in terms of the definition that you're given or provided in a generous or open-handed way. So that's how sometimes the definitions also apply politically, that people who tend to be liberal politically are more interested in welfare programs for the poor, so they tend to be more open-handed with how the government distributes its money. But in this case, I have an image to help you with liberal, and it deals with dessert. So as a baking club moderator, I am obviously pro-dessert, and I think you should be liberal in your use of chocolate sauce and caramel when you do provide someone ice cream. What I mean by liberal in their application of caramel sauce, well, exactly what you see here. Look at the amount of sauce that people have used on this slab of coffee ice cream on top of a brownie. They haven't just put a little amount of chocolate sauce and caramel, they've put a lot on. So they've been very generous or liberal in their use of condiments on top of this ice cream. Now you compare liberal to conservative, which is also an adjective. So conservative is the opposite side of the spectrum, that you're marked by moderation or caution, which is not something that I recommend when dealing with dessert. So here we see someone that takes a much more conservative approach to ice cream. Notice the smallness of the cone, one single flavor, a small amount of ice cream. So this is a more conservative approach to dessert, which is more moderate and cautious. Maybe this person is exercising moderation because they're concerned about what they're eating, or they are trying to eat healthier, but that's not something that I necessarily condone or follow. Word number 5 is decrepit, which is an adjective, and it means fallen into ruin or disrepair. And just when I hear this word decrepit, it just sounds like it is. It doesn't roll off your tongue well. It kind of sounds like it's fallen apart even as you say it. And I have a great image to kind of show you what decrepit means. So this is a decrepit bus. There is no way this thing is driving anytime soon. I don't think it even could be repaired. If you look at the extent of the damage and the rust and the fact that the tires don't even look like they can get out of the grass. So this is a perfect example of what it means when something is decrepit and has totally, completely fallen apart. The next word is fisticuffs, which is a noun, and the fact that it has the word fist in it is going to be very helpful for you because a fisticuff is a fight where you're using your fist. So the image for this, obviously, we have two boys who are fighting in the schoolyard, and notice this is a fight with their fists, that it's not something where they're throwing rocks or using knives or some other kind of weapon. It's hand-to-hand combat. Okay, word number 7 is alpha male. And if you're talking about an alpha male, you're talking about the dominant male. The picture that I have to go with the idea of alpha male is Caesar Milan and Daddy. Now, if you don't know who Caesar Milan is, he is the dog whisperer. And as he says on his show, he doesn't train dogs, he actually trains people. Well, why does he feel the need to train people? He says because a lot of dog owners don't understand dog psychology. Dogs are pack animals, which means they travel in groups, and the only way they can do that effectively is they have a leader, the alpha dog or the dominant dog that kind of keeps all the other dogs in line. And he says the problem is for many dog owners that they forget that dogs are pack animals, and instead they try to kind of humanize their animals. And what dogs really need to be well behaved is an alpha leader. So you as a human need to be the dominant person in the relationship as opposed to a friend or a buddy to your dog. So he's someone, if you ever watch his show, you'll hear that alpha phrase a lot. Tautology is a noun, and it's a needless repetition of an idea, statement, or a word. And I know we had the word pathology from first semester. Notice when you end in that OGY, it's usually an indication that the word is going to be a noun. And this picture from Flickr is called Tautology card because you can see how often certain words are repeated. So card, card, card. But then again, because this is for cow, they are using the word cow, cow, cow a lot to try to emphasize that. Needless repetition. Word number 9 is illiterate. So if you are literate, it means that you are well read. If you put that ill suffix at the front, it means the opposite. So if you are illiterate, you have little or no education, or you're unable to read and write, which makes the next image that I'm going to show you so confusing. So here we see a billboard asking anybody who is illiterate to write for free help. So now I think you understand why this person is scratching his head in the photo. It's very confusing how one would expect someone who's illiterate or can't read to even be able to read the billboard, and then 2, asking them to write for help, since illiterate means that you're unable to write. I don't know how helpful this billboard is going to be. Word number 10 is Anglophile. It is a noun. Anytime you see phile, that's a word that is related to love. So if you are a Francophile, you're in love with things French. You would have heard the term, unfortunately as well, pedophile, which means that you're in love with little children. Now, Anglophile is a person who greatly admires or favors England and things English. Now, you may say, well, why is Anglo related to England? Well, if you remember, when we were talking about Shakespeare's language, we learned that the first tribes of people that were in England were the Angles and the Jutes from Germany. So Angle is the name of the original, the Angle tribe was the name of the original inhabitants, so that's why we get the term Anglophile. So if you're an Anglophile, if you're in love with England, one of the things you'd be very interested in is Queen Elizabeth, as well as the entire royal family, since that is quintessentially an English characteristic to have a monarchy and to have a queen for over 50 years now. So that would be something that you probably pay close attention to as an Anglophile. Our 11th word is penultimate, which is an adjective. Now you may know the word ultimate already, which you usually mean to be the best of something, but perhaps it's the best because it is the last. So penultimate actually means next to last or second to last. So on this list of 4 things to do, this would be the penultimate thing. So number 3 out of the list of 4 things is to destroy all enemies. So if someone were to ask what is the second last thing you need to do today, destroy all enemies would be your penultimate task. And then number 4, have a cookie, like that. Word number 12 is also a noun, posterior, meaning the hinder parts of the body or the buttocks. Now, what I find interesting about this picture is not that it's just a random buttocks picture, but that this person apparently has a series of random butt pictures, and this is their second. Okay, well, that's one thing to take pictures of in your life. So what does this person tell his family? I like to take pictures of people's posterior? I don't know. I think you could find a better hobby. After discussing random buttocks collection, I think this is a good word to segue into. Eccentricity is a noun. So if you are an eccentric person, you are odd or whimsical. So eccentricity means that you exhibit odd or whimsical behavior, which I think you probably are if you walk around taking pictures of people's butts. So here we have a picture of a man that is eccentric for a number of reasons. First of all, he has some interesting facial hair. It's odd that he chose to dye it bright green, but also his fashion choices displays eccentricity as well. He has a number of different necklaces on. I love the parasol, and the feathers are a nice touch as well. So you could certainly see this man walking around, and if you saw him, you would certainly think he is odd. Word number 14 is going to show up in part-time Indian as an illusion. Junior, the main character, makes a reference to Medea. Medea is a noun because she's a person. She's an enchantress noted in Greek mythology for helping Jason. So her husband was Jason of Jason and the Argonauts. She helped him find the golden fleece, but in addition to her magic, she was also known to be murderous. So, for example, her husband Jason actually slept with another woman, and in order to get back at him, she killed their children. So Medea has great power, and I guess you can say kind of a great sense of revenge as well. I found this particular picture of Medea, and I thought what was interesting is it does show her looking rather tortured, maybe because she has at this point already killed her children, but it also reminded me a lot of the Circe picture, another enchantress that we studied first semester, with the cup over the potion that she's making there. It looks similar to one of the pictures that we looked at when we studied the Odyssey. The last word, number 15, is nomadic. So if you're a nomadic, which is describing something, it's an adjective, you are saying that you roam about from place to place. So you don't stay in one place for a certain period of time. So military families could almost be called transient or nomadic, because if you're in the military, usually you have to move about every 3 or 4 years. It used to be that nomadic tribes generally roam from place to place because they were following herds or they were following animals that they needed to sustain themselves to hunt. So here we see a nomadic clan on the move. If you look at the amount of stuff on top of the camels, they are carrying a lot because they're picking up their houses and going place to place. So these are the 15 words that you have for our first novel. Please make sure you study these words. Remember, since this is our first list and our tests are cumulative, these could show up and haunt you at any point during the semester. Happy studying!